everyone, and welcome back to Lights Camera Conversation. I'm Lotty.
And I'm David.
And we, this week, are talking about spooky, scary stories, real life and possibly in film as well. So, yeah, let's get cut to the chase. So, do you like being scared?
We talking about in real life or in
Yeah, like
stuff?
do you like the sensation of feeling scared and spooked?
Well, I don't really, film related, I don't really like watching horror films.
Do you not?
No, I don't.
Love them.
I think we've
Love
covered
them.
this before many years ago, but no. But when if you're talking about theme park rides and roller coasters, then
That's a different kind of scary though.
yeah.
So
well,
you would rather not be scared in a movie which is safe and secure, but you'd be rather more scared in real life with a spooky story or a ghost trail or a roller coaster.
I'd say yes to that.
Okay. Not what I was expecting, but all good. I like both. Not a massive fan of the roller coasters, but that's a side step. Okay, so have you got any scary stories to tell me?
Yes, I think we kind of shared one, not at the same time, but from the same place.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it?
And Mary King's Close, the Underground Street, and the Edinburgh Mile.
Okay. It was the Edinburgh, I went to the Edinburgh Vaults. Is that the same thing?
I don't know, it was this, because the bit one I went to was a tour, it was a street that,
Was it underground?
yeah, the street is fully underground,
Yeah,
where they
it's
just
the same.
built straight over it. And there's a kind of big history there of it. It was that street and many others around it during the Black Death, the plague.
Yes,
A
it's
lot
the same
of the people
place.
there, yeah.
Okay, we're
got
in the
it.
same place. So what happened to you then?
So yeah, I was there and we were on a tour. And one of the rooms was about a girl that I believe that died there due to plague, and there was all the tourists that come on this tour, well not all of them, but whoever wants to, leaves toys. So there's this big shrine in the corner,
Really? I don't remember
and
that.
some of that room was looked like it'd been burnt down. It was very much in ruins, and because I got into the room first, I was the last person to leave because there was only one way in and out.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly felt, as I was leaving, a little tug
On
in
your
my
clothes?
in my back behind me from low down, as if it was someone small going.
Creepy.
And I didn't look back because I didn't want. But I was like, yeah, that was someone, or that was something. Just keep going and into the next room. But I
Did you
continued.
feel like any chills or cold, or did you literally just feel a tug, or did you feel anything else? Any other sensations?
No, it wasn't. It was just. It felt like a physical someone. Yeah, just
Tugging on
tugged
your
the
clothes.
clothing from low down. It's like
Yeah.
someone small.
Yeah, it's very strange, that place. So I went there as well on a hen do, as you do. So we were just kind of drinking. We weren't really in the frame of mind for spooky stories. And I don't remember that room, but I remember going in a different room that had a circle of stones in it. And I remember going in thinking, God, I feel really hot. Like, I feel really, really hot. This is a bit weird. And then I started feeling like tightness around my throat. And I was like, I'm not going to be one of these people that leaves the room because that's, we're in Toulouseville, suck it up, feeling weird. And then they started talking about this sort of scenario like from ages ago where, people have been like essentially burnt and hung in that room. And I was literally like, oh my God, I'm really freaked out now. Because I was feeling those sensations when I got into that room, and that was prior to them talking about it. And equally, I also felt some kind of tug or someone like pressing, just on lower down, on the back of your leg. So I just think it's, I don't know, you could say it's coincidental. And some of these things I always think with kind of ghost stories, you hear other people tell the stories and you kind of like, how much of it is in your mind? But literally, I wasn't in that mindset at all. We were just like going around having a laugh and joking and things. And then these weird things started happening. So it's just, I don't know. Do you believe in ghosts? It's the all-in question, isn't it?
It's it kind of. There was a similar experience that I used to work many years ago at a British Heart Foundation charity shop. And it was a very, very old building. And there was one day when I was like on the till and no one was in there, and I felt a similar thing. Someone tugged the same place.
Ooh.
So many years, even before that, I was a big,
that's giving me like
a big family.
Sorry.
And then that takes me on to the other third one I always remembered. I was this, when me and my mate who lived in the same road, we built this base in the woods. And alongside the woods was this public pathway. But our base was just enough off so no one would really see it. And we were like doing some sort of construction, and we suddenly heard this like horse and cart going past so quick. We've looked at each other and like, where's that? Where was that? And there was nothing there because it was just a little footpath.
And you both heard it?
Yeah. And
that's weird.
And then we read up about that, and apparently there is a story about.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
I do think you get, I mean, you know, they talk about mediums and people that have like get the feels. I haven't really seen anything. I've had a few experiences where I felt kind of energy and, like we said with the vaults, things like that, and maybe sensations. I've never really seen anything, but I definitely get the feeling sometimes. There's like a few, it's like the odd Airbnb I've stayed in a really random one with my wife in Whitby, and that was really strange. It had like cherubs everywhere, and you just felt like it felt really all-consuming, the energy in there, like you were being watched. I mean, it might have been the cherubs, don't get me wrong, because there was a lot of cherubs. They were everywhere. It was very chintzy and everything was kind of looking at you. But it's kind of one of those that you feel like someone's got like a little peephole and is like staring through the wall, or there's just some kind of negative vibe in there. So I don't know, like, have you ever been to any places where you get that kind of, it doesn't feel right here, and you can't really explain what it is, it's just a feeling?
Not sure about a haunting one, but if you're talking about scary stuff, myself and Byron, when we were staying in North Wales a few weeks ago at an Airbnb, it was in the middle of nowhere, and we got there and it was foggy at night.
Yeah.
And it was the sort of place where there is no street lights and your neighbour is 50 to 100 metres away.
Yeah.
So
classic horror film stuff, that.
So when we in the house, and you kind of looked out the window, you couldn't see anything. It's just black.
Yeah, pitch black.
So we went around and obviously made sure everything was locked about 3 times. We didn't quite barricade the doors.
Yeah, that's a bit OTT.
And then we were still there in the morning, so it was all right. And you wake up and like, oh, this is a nice place.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that Airbnb that we stayed in for work recently, we went on a work trip to Dublin, and it was an old period kind of town property that was on 3 levels, and the bedroom I was staying in definitely had a feel in there. I didn't even go up to Byron's because it was in the attic. I was like, no, I'm not having that room. The house feels a bit creepy. Your room, is that right?
It's very flowery, but you did reference Conjuring, I believe, when you...
Yeah, my room, Conjuring. Yeah. It was definitely one of those where you could sort of see someone crawling out from under the bed or getting dragged out of the room. Have you seen that film?
No. I'm not planning to.
It's, honestly, in terms of like modern horror films, I think The Conjuring is... It's way up there. I mean, obviously you've got some of the cult classics like Scream from the 90s. Did you ever watch that film? You must have done.
Yes, yeah, we did watch the first few.
Did you like Scream?
Yeah, I remember seeing it with college mates. We were.
And it didn't scare you?
No, I kind of liked that. But they progressively get worse, the Scream films, I believe. I think I've only seen the first 2 or 3.
And it's a kind of classic slasher. So that film, like I watched, I mean, you're a little bit older than me, so we're showing our age now. How dare I? But I definitely watched that film. Sorry, Mum. But I was way too young to watch it. I was probably about 10 when I watched that. And it really, like, that mask, I was like, I couldn't deal with that for a few years. I was like, if I saw anyone at Halloween in that mask, I'd literally just, like, run away. But, like, no way. And obviously now, as an adult, I love that film. You look back, you're like, yeah, it's a classic 90s slasher, but clearly, at that time, probably shouldn't have watched it. But it's interesting that didn't scare you. More scared by this sort of... Some people don't like the sort of slashers. Other people don't like the sort of psychological exorcism-y type films. Would you do one of those?
Yeah, not really seen those. But you saying you watched something you shouldn't have when you were too young reminds me of what particular scenes where I watched at a mate's house, like Aliens, when I was like 10 or something, and then Terminator 2, especially the Sarah Connor's vision of the nuke going off and she's looking through the fence and she kind of she melts away.
Yeah, they're scary scenes. Like at that age, it's sort of, that's why obviously they have an 18 sticker on, because you're not mentally ready. But you know, everyone is guilty of watching films ahead of when they should do. I guess it's just sort of the type of film.
And it's interesting. At the time, I remember I was really scared of it. It's actually behind you. Do you want to grab it's Gremlins, which is actually more of a comedy. But when you're a kid, it's terrifying.
Classic. You see, I never really watched this growing up. I kind of just missed this. I think it was probably when it came out. What year was it? Early 90s?
85, 86.
85.
Around there,
so I wasn't born then. Sorry. I was born in 86.
Just before.
When were you born?
I did not watch it when I was 1. But yes.
Yeah, so it's...
And it's set at Christmas, so is it a Christmas film? That's another podcast.
Well, it's like the old Die Hard, isn't it?
If you pass me that back, man. For people who are just listening... I have got here a DVD of Gremlins, but it's in one of the original cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
That was in. Let me go for a camera. Look at this.
Now this...
It's amazing. A cardboard DVD box.
Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. This, one year, I remember pestering my mum for this film. I was like, I really want this film, I really want this film, I really want this film. It's a PG. She didn't buy me this film. I remember that Christmas. She's like, no, you're too young for it. I was clearly just watching Scream or something, but I couldn't have the PG watching The Nightmare Before Christmas. So this film, I actually don't think I've ever seen.
No?
I've never seen it. I'm pretty sure I have. I know what it is because I've seen the trailers, but I don't think I've ever watched it. Is it a good one?
I don't really... I like the first, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then I don't like it.
Oh, it's got a behind the scenes, it says on the back. There's a behind the scenes featurette. I might just watch that.
It's on Disney Plus. Isn't there?
What else have we got back there? Ghostbusters, classic. Oh.
But yeah, the Ghostbusters, when I was younger...
Favourite?
Ghostbusters, one of the opening scenes in Ghostbusters where they're in the library and they're creeping up to the librarian ghost. And she suddenly becomes a old, scary, really hideous person. That always... I always had to look away when I rewatched that as a little.
Yeah.
I say little.
There's always scenes like that. I remember going to the cinema to watch Jurassic Park, and I was all for it. My little buddy at the time, who was sat with me, he was literally just covering up his hands. He was using his hands to cover up his face and his eyes, and he was just not having any of it. Terrified. But it's funny, isn't it? What scares you? I mean, I quite like the sensation of being scared. I think it's sort of... especially with movies, because I think it's, you're in a safe space, aren't you? And then you're watching something that's taking you into a place where you feel a bit, unnerved or uncomfortable. But there's various levels of scary films. I mean, Jaws is obviously 12, but if you watch, Saw, we're talking about an entirely different film.
But Jaws has a couple moments that stick out to me, a couple of jump scares, particularly when they're in the boat at night and they're diving and the head or face appears.
Yeah. And
then where what's the character's name? Where he literally just gets chewed and you see it for quite a long time by the shark.
Yeah.
By Bruce. They're both terrifying but for different reasons.
For different reasons, yeah. Do you, if you're ever in the sea and you go snorkeling, do you do their...
No, in the sea I'll only go as deep as my knees, I believe.
I do it. I literally go in with a snorkel and start singing the theme tune. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just scaring myself. But it's funny, isn't it? Because that film it's obviously not a horror film by any stretch, but it's one of those films that does scare a lot of people. And in terms of, if you watch that, I think there's always a part of you when you get in the sea, you're a little bit like, oh, am I going to come into contact with something here that I shouldn't do? But I think that's, that could be for anything, because the sea is deep and scary and unknown, isn't it? It's just a vast abyss.
And there's another thing behind you. Is it X-Files? I don't know how much you've seen or remember of that. Because especially the first 5 or 6 series, there's lots of fantastic masterpiece episodes that are like 45-minute films of real kind of scary stuff where it's paranormal or monsters or mutants.
All kind of 90s stuff here, isn't it?
Yes,
showing our age in the era of us growing up. But I haven't seen any X-Files. I don't know anything other than the song
Mulder and Scully.
There was a song about that. Who did that song?
The Welsh band.
Yes, them. If you know, let us know. Comment.
Catatonia.
Yeah, someone like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know about it.
Also, 90s, but we're now kind of moving over to sort of horror comedy. Tremors?
No, never seen it.
Kevin Bacon?
No.
Big giant worms, like in a little terrorised a desert town somewhere.
No. Horror comedies are okay. What about Zombieland? Like, that's good.
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead is great.
That's got to be up there as one of them.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice?
Yeah, Beetlejuice is pretty good. Although I hadn't seen that until quite recently, and watching it, I was like, it's quite paedophilic film.
Right.
Do you get that?
No.
It's a bit...
Do you want to explain, or
it's,
is that off
well,
air?
he's like... He marries the girl, and she's what, like...
Oh yeah.
10, 11, 12? It's a bit... I don't know. It's like, ooh, this is... I don't know.
From the mind of Tim Burton.
Yeah, but, you know, obviously it was in the 90s, but I don't know. I think watching it now in modern day, that film is not carried very well at all. Because it's a bit like, ooh, that's just a bit... It's just a few things in there that you're like, I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah, I've got on my little list here, there's 2 films that... They're not horror films, they're not meant to be scary, but they're really terrifying and stay with you. One's Requiem for a Dream.
I haven't seen that.
And Watership Down.
Oh.
Anyone only seen Watership Down will know exactly what I mean.
That's the animation,
Yeah,
right?
rabbits literally tearing each other apart and skin and blood and just... Yeah.
Is that a kid's film?
I don't know. I will have a quick look on IMDb. But yeah,
probably a PG.
Again, it was 80s again where...
Wow. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think things just sort of stick in your mind.
Oh no, it's 1978. And apparently it's a U. What?
No!
Oh dear.
You can't show blood in a U. Not by today's standards, you can't.
Oh, there's a great cast there. Richard Bryce, John Hurt. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? With different things. So what is the scariest film you've seen then? So we've gone through like horror comedy, sort of thrillers that we've got back there, stroke action films. I mean, surely you must have watched a core classic horror film and then gone, you know what, it's not for me.
Yeah, my friend's house for a long time. If it was one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And I believe I kind of positioned myself more to the back of the room conveniently after going to the toilet and just sort of watch like this. While they're all just laughing and I'm like, oh, I've got to watch this because we're on a sleepover and there's no choice.
Well, that was what we did back in the day. It was all, you know, slumber party, sleepover. You would get a horror film. You're clearly not old enough to watch. Watched it, you'd all be terrified. You'd all be sleeping in the same room, so you'd manage it. Did you ever watch Candyman? That was quite of the 80s, 90s. I remember watching that with a sleepover, and none of us would look in the mirror and say Candyman. But you had to say it 5 times, and we would say it 4 times, obviously, in case Candyman appeared in the mirror.
I'm just looking around this room quickly while he's posted to see if there's anything else that sticks out of being scary, but I don't think there is. I believe Scream's behind me that we've already talked about.
Scream's right there, yeah.
Oh, actually, Nightmare on Elm Street and Poltergeist.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. I've noticed that one over there. There are quite a few horror films in here. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street is the classic, and I think where it really scares people it is that he comes and gets you in your dreams, so it's like don't fall asleep, and obviously we all have to fall asleep, so it's sort of it's a classic. Have you ever seen The Exorcist?
No, just little clips.
Yeah. I think it's sort of It's interesting watching that now because obviously that film was banned at the time, and you know, there's some scenes in there that are clearly, you know, were very ahead of its time in that sense. It was sort of, this is too much for the current audience in the 70s, I think, I believe.
Yes,
film.
late 70s, I think, yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of one of those, but I remember when I watched it, I was like, this is a bit of a letdown. But obviously watching it by today's standards versus... And now, you know, you've got things that are so... Some stuff, some content now is, you know, really extreme. Some of it. You know, some stuff on Netflix, it's kind of like, ooh, should I be watching this?
Didn't you watch and mention...
American Horror Stories.
Didn't they remake...
Quite interesting.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre and something to a bus?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you're like, that's too much.
Yeah.
They've gone well over the top.
The modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's a scene on a bus and it is just too much chainsaw action.
But I don't know if because it was streaming, I'm not sure if the rules are different, you can get away with more.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just was kind of like, it's almost, you want to scare the audience, but not to the point where you lose them because you're like, you've either stepped too far over the mark or it's just too much gratuitous violence that you're like, I literally can't deal with this, it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah, so I avoid.
It's a fine line.
Not interested in that sort of thing. Yeah.
Good. Have we got any last spooky things to come out with? Got any spooky jokes?
No.
No, I don't
I can't think without having to Google one or something, yeah. But yeah, maybe that wraps it up then.
Okay.
We've had, some good real life horror, spooky experiences and chatted about ours, mainly 80s, so yeah.
That's it. Well, if you believe in ghosts or you don't believe in ghosts, let us know. Comment, like, share. But yeah, give us your horror stories. Horror stories is great. You want to collect other people's stories so then you can tell their stories to other people. So if you've got any good horror stories or any experiences, then do share them. And tune in to Lights Camera Conversation next time.